What's up, y'all? Chuck Dunface here. On the table, I have the F3 from Curtis Custom Knives. Dave Curtis is the maker of this bad boy right here. He is now putting out some new models. These are the slim models. So this is the new F3 medium slim. So this is the medium profile with the Spanto blade. So Spanto being it's a hollow grind and then a kind of like a combination spear point and tanto tip. So it's a compound grind there with a hollow and then the flat at the tip. Now I did a video a few weeks back on this knife. It was an unboxing and there was a couple of issues with it. One of which was a very sharp point right there. Right at that tip right there where the lock bar is cut, and then a couple of other things as well. There was a scuff on the pivot. It was pretty obvious, and just a couple of fit and finish things. A really late lockup, and it was something that I was going to need to address. Now, Dave Curtis, the maker of this knife, reached out to me shortly after I posted my video. He reached out to me. I think he made a comment on the video itself, and then we started talking on Instagram. So within about an hour, he had reached out to me. And he wanted to see what he could do to get it fixed. And so, what we decided on doing, and I thought that was really cool, first of all. Who am I? I've got... today's date is March 13th, 2022. As of now, I've got like 170 followers or subscribers rather on YouTube. I'm very small time, and he reached out to me because he saw an issue and he wasn't happy with something. So something left his shop that he wasn't happy with, and he wanted to get it fixed for an end user. So I thought that was very cool. In any case, what we ended up doing is we sent it back, boxed it up, sent it back. And it is now back to me after a few weeks here. I've had it since Friday and been carrying it a little bit. And I just wanted to finally do some full thoughts, give a review on this knife right here. So a couple of things right off the bat that he fixed that was a problem. Like I said, that was a very sharp point right there. And if you go back and check out my video, I kind of remark on that. And like I say, a couple other cosmetic things. What he did was, he just replaced the scales altogether. So they were more of a darker stone wash before, and now they almost have more of it almost looks like a bead or even a glass blast on the scale. So it's a smoother finish, which I was very happy with. And then he's replaced the pivot as well. The pivots are, I believe they might have even been more stone wash last time. I'll have to go back and watch my own video. But they're kind of more of a polished spot pivot now. So those two things right there. The blade is the same. It does have a bit of a cosmetic flaw right there, a little bit of a scuff, but that's no big deal. It's just one of those things that you deal with custom or semi-custom knives. It is what it is. So he reached out to me as well, and we kind of talked throughout the process before he shipped it out and said, is this to your liking? And I said, if you're happy, I'm happy. I did remark a little bit on the lockup. I said, Dave, is that a little bit late? And he says, no, I think that's perfect. I'm really happy with the lock. It seems like it's in the right place to me. And I said, all right, well, if you're happy, I'm happy. And he also said, if there's anything wrong with it, I'll go ahead and take care of it if anything happens. And having it in hand and looking at it, I don't have a problem with that at all. It's good. Yeah, without further adu, we'll get into the review, but yeah, very happy with the customer service and the final result. And Dave, being a stand-up guy in a world where it can be hit or miss when it comes to service at some point, but he really wanted to make sure that his customer had a product that was up to his standards and my standards as well. So now, I guess there was a little bit of further ado, but going into just some general specifications. It's got about a 3¼ inch blade. I believe it might be advertised at 3.5, but I'm gonna have to say it's more like 3¼ inches. So each one of these squares is a 1/2 inch. So that's 1, 2, 3, and I'd say about a quarter inch right there. And then it's going to be about, what do we got overall? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 7.5 inches overall, maybe just shy of that. So it's not a real big knife. And like I say, these are the new F3 Slims. So the titanium liners have been scaled back a little bit. I don't know if he's changed the blade stock at all. It's possible. I don't have one of the older F3s to kind of use as a reference, but that may be a possibility. We'll do a couple of size comparisons here. That is the Spyderco Paramilitary 2, Knifeworks exclusive in M4 and carbon fiber. That's always a good one right there. And there is the Ontario Rat number 1 in D2. So smaller than both those guys right there. Let's see. Spyderco Native 5 right there. So it's going to be bigger than the Native 5. All right, but smaller than the Para 2. So actually, let me throw the Para 2 up there right now too, so you can kind of get an idea. Bigger than the 5, smaller than the Para 2 or the PM2. Let's see. Here is the tried and true Sabenza 21 from Chris Reeves Knives. So it's going to be smaller in blade, a little smaller in handle, a little more compact. Similar thickness in the scales as well. Beefier blade stock, however. And let's see, just for grins, here's another F3. We have the Curtis Knives F3, and then we have the Shirogorov Knives F3. So very different knives. Yeah, there's a couple of F3s just for grins. So kind of getting into it right now. You can see the size comparisons. It feels really good in the hand. The Ergos are very nice on this knife. It is a smaller knife, and I tend to prefer bigger folders, but it doesn't hold, it doesn't carry like a smaller knife, and it doesn't feel like a smaller knife in use. It doesn't feel in any way that there's not enough knife, for any task at hand. Now, I haven't used this a whole bunch. I've had it in my pocket today. I was playing around with it a lot on Friday. Now, one thing that I will say is kind of just a bummer. It's not a bad thing, but you do have to kind of Loctite these. You kind of adjust the pivot where you want it to. I mean, it comes adjusted. It really doesn't need a whole lot of fidgeting, but it will loosen up a little bit as you use it. So you can get a little side-to-side blade play, which is not a big deal. It just means it needs to be Loctited. I guess Dave used to Loctite from the factory. Now he sends a bottle of, a little vial of 242, Loctite 242, which I used my own. I didn't use that. But all of that was kind of just leading me around to the point that I had to Loctite it yesterday or Friday evening, and then I just didn't touch it all day Saturday. So I've been just kind of having it and used it a little bit at, cutting some meat up today and everything else. So I did get a little bit of use out of it today. In any case, yeah, carries really well. Feels great in the hand, great ergos. No real hot spots to comment on. I mean, maybe this hump right here where the finger groove is, it might bother you a little bit because my finger will be right there on it, but thus far, it really hasn't been any of an issue for me, anything like an issue. I mean, maybe some extended use without gloves, it might be, but it's got a nice choil there too. I tend not to really choke up. One thing I'd love to see maybe in the future would be like kind of how Hinderer has the no choil slicer grinds and things like that. It'd be kind of cool to see one of these made with a no choil. But in any case, that's up to Dave and what he wants to do in that regard. Backspacer right here. It's a geared backspacer and it's beveled on the edges as well. So it provides a nice bit of jimping. This would be some traction maybe for some reverse cuts, something like that. It doesn't bother me in hand at all. I mean, I like it. And the jimping right there on the spine is also very functional. I may want to see it go up a little bit more on the spine of the blade, but overall, I really can't complain about that. I like the jimping on that quite a bit. As you can see right here, CTS XHP. Probably one of my favorite stainless steels. S90V would be my favorite. XHP would be probably my second favorite. It takes a really keen edge. It polishes up nicely. It's very easy to strop and just maintain a long working edge just using Strop. So I really do like CTS XHP. I wish more makers would utilize the steel. I think it's fantastic. And it's a little bit more complex than just stainless D2, which it kind of gets boiled down to. But Mike Christie has a great video on it, and kind of the complexities of CTS XHP and his sharpening of it and his use of it and kind of his thoughts. And I might try to find that video and link it into the description. But in any case, it's got the nice milled out pockets right there with F3 and then his logo, Curtis, right there. You can kind of see maybe a little bit of machining in there, but for me, it's not a deal breaker at all. I don't think it really takes away. First of all, it's not that noticeable. Second of all, I don't really think that's that big a deal. I mean, Dave Curtis does all these in his shop in Indiana. He's got CNC and laser machines and water jetting, I guess. He's got a full service shop, so he does everything in house. I mean, he may order some screws or something like that. But, the spot pivot, he makes in-house. Obviously, he does his clip. So the clip, for me, I think it's great. I really do appreciate the fact that it is recessed. So there's a cutout in the scale, and the clip is fit in there. And so it can snug in nicely. Just a couple of screws on there as well. It's not deep carry, obviously, but I don't particularly love a deep carry, and you won't have much more than about that coming out of your pocket, when you've got it in your pocket there. So I like his logo. He's gone away from having the logo on the blade. I believe in the older F3s, he would have the Crosshairs logo on the blade, laser engraved on there somewhere, but he's gone away from that, but he kept the tip. He kept it on the clip. The clip itself is very reminiscent of a Hinderer clip, real simple design. It's just something I appreciate a lot. It does have a lanyard hole if you want to get a lanyard attached in there, so you can certainly do that. I'm not going to do that. Not really super into lanyards, but if that's something that you wanted to do, you certainly could. Came very sharp from the factory. No complaints whatsoever there. He may have touched the edge up on his buffing wheel a little bit before sending it back to me. So, I mean, he's definitely done a great job grinding the blade and sharpening the blade. It's almost got a mirror polish. Now, it could be refined just a little bit more, but that's not Dave's job. That's my job, in order to do that. So makers make, users sharpen. And so I will go ahead and at some point when it needs it, go ahead and put a different edge on there and maybe polish it up. Like I said, XHP takes a real nice polish and responds very well to Strops. So I really like that about this steel. The pivot, it's one of those things that, it may be a love or hate thing for you. It's the spot pivot. It's SPOT. I can't remember exactly what it stands for, but I do know it acts as an over travel stop as well. So it doesn't have any sort of LBS, lock bar stabilizer right there or internal. It just, the pivot itself acts like that. Something that I've seen a couple of makers start to do. Spartan Blades is doing that with their Spartan Harsey folders now, which I think is pretty cool. So I like that quite a bit. The pivot itself, when you break it down, it's not super robust. I mean, it's a pretty standard size. Looking at the externals on the pivot, you would think you would have this 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch pivot in there, but it's really not like that. It's actually, it's very standard in size. The flipper tab has been changed. It's not as pronounced as it was before. It's nicely jimped. It's not overly aggressive. But it's no problem getting purchase on the flipper tab in order to go ahead and it fires out with authority every time, no problem. He is making non-flipper versions of all of his knives. So he has, of course, the Spanto here, but he also has a slicer and a Wharncliffe. So the slicer is just going to be a single grind going all the way up without that compound grind. And the Wharncliffe, of course, is going to be more of a Wharncliffe style blade. So hence the name Wharncliffe. He does make non-flipper versions of those as well. That's something he started doing. And I mean, the action is fantastic. It fires out with authority. It drops shut. And like, if you've been watching my channel or follow me on Instagram, you know that, drop shut isn't really all that important to me. I don't really care about my drop shut. But it does that, and it doesn't do it in a guillotine fashion. It does it more, controlled way. And I would imagine it will probably break in a little bit more with time, or it'll be even a little bit more drop shut. But that isn't something that's really I crave. You've got that, of course, with the Sheargorovs, but it's not quite to the same level of smoothness that you're going to get on you know, a Shirogorov knife. It is very smooth, but the bearings, I believe they're stainless steel bearings. They could be ceramic. I'm not 100% sure, but they're cage bearings in there, and the action is just great. So at the risk, I feel like I might be rambling a little bit, so I'm gonna just kind of wrap it up with, I'm very happy with this knife. I'm glad I got it. I'm glad I talked to Dave, and Dave reached out to me, and we were able to kind of get some of the issues that I have with it fixed. Fantastic guy, fantastic customer service. Very happy with my entire experience, and I definitely can easily recommend one of these now. I know a lot of people are on the fence. You know, he has changed the design a little bit. This is now the slim, so it's not maybe the beefy, overbuilt workhorse that people we're used to seeing, but it is every bit of a capable, refined, and really quite a beautiful knife, and I'm very happy to own it. So with that being said, go ahead and right there, somehow, click, click, bang, bang, bang. Click that subscribe button. Go ahead and give me a follow on Instagram at Chuck_Nunface. Leave a comment, turn on your alerts. You know, let you know when I've got new content coming out. Yeah, definitely leave a comment. Let me know what you think. You planning on getting one of these now? Did my review maybe change your mind, or did it push you over the fence, or maybe you decided that you didn't want one? What have your experiences been with, you know, Dave Curtis in Indiana? Have they been positive like mine? In any case, you know, let me know what you think, and I appreciate you checking it out. Thanks, y'all.